I am always trying to think outside the box. Today is no exception. Here's the Z06 that's been sitting in my driveway for a long time because I blew up its engine. Now, here's what I'm talking about. Every video I've seen of someone taking an engine out of one of these, they've talked about how it's difficult to get out of there because that portion of the bat wing pan, pardon my finger, gets stuck on the K member, cradle, cross member, whatever you want to call it. However, since my engine is blown beyond all possible recognition, I'm kind of wondering if I can take off the pan with it in the car and then pull the short block out. It's still in the planning stages, but as you can see, this has been sitting for a minute. I've managed to take off the heads and the intake and, you know, water pump and stuff like that. But if you'll notice, see that back piston? When it blew up, I broke a rod, and then, look how dirty that is. That's so embarrassing. I also noticed those little shiny spots because I've been revving the crap out of the engine. I abused this one. Anyway, I want to use that balancer that's on there because that's an ATI. But I'm going to take that starter off and I'm going to see how many bolts I can remove from the oil pan, and I'm going to take loose the top bolts where the bolts connect the engine mount to the block and the bottom. So that'll be out of the way, and then I'm going to get up under the car and jack up the front of the torque tube, and I think I might be able to do some finagling and get this out of there. For those of you who don't remember what happened under here, as you can see, it had a little bit of issues. I hydraulic the motor. The aftermarket cold air intake on here sits really, really low in the front. I went through not a very deep amount of water, sucked it right up in there and smoked it. So I'll be taking that thing off. And I don't know if you could see up in there, but right between that pipe and that transmission mount, see the bolt up in there? I'm going to be taking it loose where the torque tube connects to the back of the bell housing. So once those are done, I'm going to see how much of this oil pan I can get loosened up, and I'm going to just let the oil pan fall down because it's damaged badly. So is the block, so is the crank. So there's actually a good side to this. I don't have to worry about, when I pull this out of here, damaging anything because it is thoroughly smoked. So those of you who are trying to find a video about how to yank the engine out the top, keep in mind this is only if your engine is just thoroughly smoked like this one is. This one is just absolutely crunched. The block up on the side there, I don't know if you could see it, but can you see the area right in front of the oil filter there? You see how it's broken loose? The whole side of the block got knocked out. When this thing gets out of here, it's going to be some serious carnage. Go back and check a few videos ago when I messed this car up, and you'll see what I found in the bottom part of the oil pan. This top part of the pan just has chunks missing, and the bottom of the block is just pieces gone. But let's start loosening up all these bolts, make some progress. I was going to use this water pump again because it was only like 2,000 miles old, but what's up with that? That's right about where the weep hole would have been, so I don't know. I guess I'm getting a new water pump. That's for another day, though. There's a lot of this I won't be saving, obviously, like that piston right there. But when it comes to these sensors and things, this one being the camshaft position sensor, and that one being the oil pressure sensor, I'm going to go ahead and take those out because this engine was really fresh. And I know all these things are good, so unless there's something visibly wrong with it, take it out of here. But the cam looks like it's okay, so this might be all right. There we go. See if it's smooth on the end. Appears to be. I'll keep that. Put the bolt back in. This one here, I'm just going to use a adjustable wrench on that, or vice grips. This is a good time to tell you guys that this sensor right here anytime you're back in this area, you better just go ahead and replace it because these things go bad. What I'm doing on the new one though, and it just occurred to me, this could be a teaching moment, oil pressure sender or sensor, whatever you want to call it. Now I'm going to see if I can get this down in here. See that plug? That plug right there, you can take that plug out, move it there, and you could make the sensor come down here. Now when you do that, that wiring will have to be extended and you'll have to make sure it doesn't hit the exhaust and all that, but when it's up in here, that'll be a heck of a lot easier to change. The first pipe's going to be about here, so you'll be, yeah, there's also on the cylinder head there's a coolant temperature sensor that bolts on right along in here-ish. But right down under there, it, in my opinion, would be a lot easier place to have it, because once your intake is on and you have all that stuff back there and all the lines and wires and hoses, it's hard to get to that, so I'm going to swap that out on the new engine. I am making some progress. That's the clutch inspection cover. That's off. Also, while you can't really see them back there, the bell housing bolts are out where it connects to the engine. The motor mounts have all 3 bolts out of each one. I've undone the AC compressor over there. I'm really close to being able to see if I could jiggle this thing. If I'm unable to get the thing out pretty quickly, I'm going to go ahead and just disconnect the bolts on the steering rack there. But as of right now, the plan is once again to just totally leave the pan sitting where it is. The bottom part of the bat wing's already off. The top part is there. It's already crazy damaged, so I don't really have to worry about messing it up. So I'm going to undo every oil pan bolt and then see if I could get this thing to come up out of there by lifting the front of it first and trying to get that torque tube a little more angled up. All the bolts going between the torque tube and the bell housing are out, and all the ones between the bell housing and the engine. So, time to yank the cherry picker out here. Quick sidebar, I just got the water pump in and I was unable to find my original water pump bolts. So I now have ARP water pump bolts and thermostat housing bolts. That's how you know you're making way too much money in life. Another thing I just got in the mail. I used the push rods from the last engine that I had. I checked them all, they were all straight. That's the part number, those are the ones. But I remember something looking a little odd about one. So I took them all out and I found that a couple of the holes on the end were just barely larger than they should be. I checked all of the rockers, those were fine. So that prompted me to go ahead and get another set of these because I'm not going to have a push rod tear up my whole motor. But these are some good ones. They're 7.4 in length. They're 0.080 wall. Same ones that were in it. So they'll be going back with the new cam and the new engine. For those of you who are probably a step ahead going, wait, he didn't measure those. Yeah, I did. I just didn't get it on video. And I found that the 7.400 will be exactly perfect for this application. Now, this is what I was talking about. See the hole in the end of that? Get a slight idea what it is. Now look at the other side. And that's wallowed out right there. No other way to look at it. That means it was wearing, and once it gets past that, it's going to start wearing quicker. So this is the only one I found that was bad, but like I said, after I installed these and just kind of stuck them into place, I thought I wasn't going to use those. So I went ahead and ordered a new set, and the other side's already in, but this is the only bad one I found. And that's what they are. 7638 Comp Magnum. Putting the old ones down here, taking the new ones out of the plastic, getting them all lubed up with the Lucas assembly lube and slopping them in, and then just finger tightening these down again, each one as I go. All the push rods are in, all of the rockers are just finger tighted down, so I'll be adjusting that later, before it goes in the car though. Bolts are in the water pump. Gonna deal with this little issue when I go into town and get the gasket for it. But as of right now, that's all I'm doing tonight. I wanted to tell you guys, I know you see these channels where they go out and buy a $50,000 car and they dyno it on their own dyno, and then they put a brand new engine in it, then they rebuild all this stuff and they spend 200 grand in one video. I'm not that guy. I'm a guy who tries to find a really effective way to make things work while not going crazy spending money on it. So that's what you're getting here. LS6 stroker with a big old crank and cam in it. We'll just have to see what this does. Maybe next time we'll build a 3,000 horsepower engine.